Hi, and welcome to the BookishStitcher podcast. My name is Jeanette. You can find me on Ravelry, Instagram, and Goodreads as BookishStitcher, all one word. Hope you've had a wonderful week since I last podcasted. It's been a fun and not fun and happy and smiles and tears and all sorts of week for us. My son had one of his oldest, maybe possibly his oldest friend. He's known her since she was 3 and he was 2. Had her 10th birthday party yesterday. So she had it at a pool, and that was fun for him to get to go spend the day with a whole bunch of friends that he's known since he was very little. And it's kind of an awesome thing that they've known each other for so long and they've kind of grown up together. And I think it's really special considering where we live, since we live in San Antonio in Texas, because it's a very large military town. And so as much as you want to keep your people and your friends, they are only here for 2 or 3 years and then they leave, and that's always very sad for everyone. But so these are friends that we've had, and they're not military, so he's known them for a while, and that was fun for him to get to do. And then we also had, my husband and I celebrated our 12th year of being married and silly best friend goofiness. We got married super young, so it probably seems like, how have you been married for 12 years? But we both got married very young. We both couldn't drink on our honeymoon. But you know, I think it's been wonderful because we've seen each other grow throughout these 12 years in different ways, and you know, had our ups and downs, but we, you know, still value a lot. We still have the same like core values, and we still really love spending time, just the two of us, doing goofy things, and we can't wait till we're old and retired and can go travel the world and just sit and read books in cafes all over the world. But so he wanted to go see a superhero movie, the Captain America Civil War movie, and I like superhero movies, most of them, so I said I'd go along. My mom came and babysat the kids, and it was so funny because her husband was actually going out that very same night to see that movie, and she used us as her excuse to get out because she didn't want to go see the movie. But we weren't at the same theater as he was because we live in very different parts of the city. They don't even live in the city. But anyways, so it was an okay movie as far as superhero movies go. It was a little too much inner superhero angst for me. I like mine just good guys fighting the bad guys and cool scenes, but I don't mind angst, but not normally in superhero movies. But anyways, so that was a good time, and we only go out to the movies about once a year, so that was fun. I'm having some, oh, it's still too hot, dang it, some matcha tea. It's a green tea from Japanese green tea, but it's this, but it's still way too hot. You can't see the steam, but it's burning my hand a little bit to even touch it. But, and then my daughter had her allergy testing this week, as I talked about last week. Thank you so much to everyone for all the prayers. My husband came with, and I basically spent the whole week driving and filling out paperwork, I feel like. But my husband came with because I knew that I could not hold her down for the testing. That breaks my heart. And I may have been out in the hallway crying, and she was in the room crying, and then I came in after she had gotten the test. They didn't want to do the blood draw because they felt she was a little too young, but so they did the back panels where they spike your back, and I held her and hugged her after she got it done. And I found that I used to try to always, whenever somebody was feeling sad about something, try to cover it up or be like, oh, let's look on the bright side, let's look on the happy side, and just ignore the sadness. But the kids movie Inside Out, if you haven't seen it, it's amazing, and it talks about the value of sadness. And that movie really made me realize how just acknowledging someone's sadness and being there with them in the moment. You don't have to say anything. Don't try to skip over it or make jokes. Just being in there in the moment and letting them feel that sadness is actually very therapeutic to the person. And so that's what we did. And I just held her and I said, I know it hurts. I know your back hurts. And she was like, yeah, it hurts so much. And we just held her and we both cried. I'm a big softie. I will cry at anything. But so that was all day, and I really didn't get to knit much during that because it was the paperwork and following her around and trying to keep her happy. But they did different panels, and so they did most common foods, and they ruled out that she is not allergic to any of the sorry, common food allergies, which is good. And they said that she has a little bit of an allergy to dust mites, and I dust about once a week, so I'm going to try to dust every day now. But they think the main thing, they think, and my friend Yinny Knits actually wrote to me about this, that it was probably because you can be anaphylactic to bug reactions, and so they can do a venom panel, but it has to be drawn with blood, so they're going to wait a while to do that. But they got the details from the ER. They said that it was an anaphylactic reaction, and so we now have EpiPens, and I have to carry them around, and they were getting me to like practice on myself without a real needle in it, but you know how to do it. And it's kind of scary to me, and I hope that I will never have to use an EpiPen, because I have a phobia of needles. Needles and spiders are things that I don't really like. But that has been a little bit of our week. I don't want to go into too many details with my daughter's thing, because I know you guys probably are tired of hearing about that. But thank you for listening and for the prayers and the good thoughts this week. It really meant a lot to me. Now on to the knitting. So I have a finished object, and this is what I spent a lot of time working on this week. So this is my Marcella Rose cowl. And I think this is actually going to be going to my mom, because she was here when I was binding off, and when I was like halfway through the bind off, and she loved it, so I think we're going to her. But it's a cowl, and it has these textured sections, which are all kinds of messed up because it's a right twist, and I just was not in the place to be doing that. And I think I'm good on right twist for a while, because this was a section of this whole thing. And so there's the bind off. It's very kind of ruffly. And when you wear it, it can kind of, all the ends are sewn in, but I didn't block it because I didn't want it to get super, super huge and lose its softness. But my mom, I'll let her try it on, and if she would like it blocked, I can block it for her. But it can sit like a cowl, but it can also sit very much like a shrug on, well, a poncho kind of onto your shoulders. And so that is it. And all of it's about 630 yards that went into this, so it's lovely. I have a little bit left of the brown and green, and a tiny bit left of this variegated. That was that one. And then I worked a tiny bit this week. My kids woke me up Monday morning, and they wanted to go fill up. We have a little inflatable pool that's like a tiny little pool. And they wanted me to blow it up and fill it up, blow it up and then fill it up with water. And they wanted to go play with it. But they woke me up at 6 a.m. because they had this on their mind. And so I did all that. And then I got my knitting and my coffee, and I went out on the deck and knit. I took a little picture of my sock next to one of the inflatable fish that came with the pool. But these are the Driftwood socks. Oh, and I forgot to say, this is out of O Loops yarn. It was a kit, the Marcella Rose kit for that cowl. But these are my socks, and these are for my husband, and this is the Driftwood pattern by Mina. Look how much I got done. Not very much. So last week I was here in this shiny little spot, and I've knit a couple pattern repeats, but you can see the pattern quite well now. And this is Lorna's Laces Solemate in the colorway Bow Ties Are Cool. And Solemate is a base that has Outlast in it, which is their thing that helps climate control your socks so they don't get too hot or too cold. But it's 55% superwash merino, 15% nylon, and 30% Outlast. And I'm thinking if my husband likes this, that it might be a perfect sock yarn for him if it lasts well, because it can climate control his socks. And he wears his socks I knit him even in the summer, which is crazy, man. Not bow ties are cool, just bow tie, sorry. That's Outlast. And so I could have maybe taken these as like a travel project, but I would have messed the Driftwood pattern up. I would have just forgotten to do it, and then remembered to do it and forgotten to do it on the right row, because as you guys know, as I've told you, I am notorious for not being able to do any kind of pattern out anywhere. And then the next thing I have, oh, that bag. Oh my gosh, I'm so everywhere. That bag was from the Doctor Who bag because I thought it went well with the yarn. This is from Three Little Monkeys Stitch and Spin. But most of these you guys have already heard. I talked about them last week. And this is in a Freckled Whimsy newspaper print bag. These are the Zigzagamond socks that I am making for my son out of some Knit Knerd yarns. And I am trying some needles that I had not used before, the Addy Flip Sticks. So last week, I was right here, I'm using my little progress marker that came in the Bling Your String. It's a little babushka. Look, there's her head scarf. It's so adorable. Erin, my friend Erin made this, I believe, and she made different ones for everybody for their kit for what they wanted. And it is so cute. You can't see it with my camera, but the little babushka has kind of like a side smirk, which makes me smile every time I see it. And so that's where I was last week. So I finished up this sock, which, you know, these feet, like, look at that. It's about as long as mine. It's maybe not as wide because he has super narrow feet, but it's about as long as mine. And then I started and got a little over halfway through the next one. And this colorway from Knit Knerd is called She's So Unusual. You can see the gussets kind of doing something crazy, but it almost looks self-striping. So these are almost done. It just turns out that, of course, I cannot knit these out places because it is a pattern and I get highly distracted. And so I would knit these in the mornings when I had time, but we were just gone so much this week, just so much driving, which was good for audiobooks because I finished an awesome audiobook and I'm going to talk about it this week and I'm so excited. But then since I was going out places, most of the week was going to be out, and I needed something, you know where this is going, don't you? I needed something that I could work on that did not have a pattern. There's no pattern. Once I got to a certain point, I could just knit. So in my Bink Waffle bag, which I use all the time, I started a new sock. I know. I said I wanted to get socks off the needles, and I am. This one is almost off the needles. I'm picking my oldest one, and then I'm going through, but I have to have a plain sock. That is my swimming lessons knitting, my doctor appointment knitting, my dentist knitting, because my kids had to go to the dentist this week, and my daughter has awesome teeth, so yay. My son has an abstracted tooth, so he needs dental work, but I knit on that or at the dentist, and I knit on it at the movies. It was basically knitting everywhere that I went this week on this sock. So this is some Opal, and it's their Little Prince line. Love this book. I actually have it next to me to show you in a second, but their Little Prince line. And so I knit a very good amount on this. I'm almost ready to do my double gusset on the bottom before I do my fish lips kiss heel. And I think this is gorgeous. This is blue that almost kind of matches my shirt, and the purple. And then this is kind of a charcoal gray or brown kind of shade, and it has bits of yellow. So lots of favorite colors. It doesn't have green, which is another of my favorite colors, but I don't think green would quite work in this book. It's very nice. And while I was at Captain America, the movie, there was an intense part, and I was knitting, and I was getting so much done because I think I went in the movie with like that much or something around there. It was before this part. And because like I said, when I was at the doctor's and the dentist, there's a lot of paperwork, as you probably know. And so I was knitting, and I got to the end. I was like, what did I do to this stitch? What I couldn't see very well because you're in a darkened theater, and I couldn't, I didn't have a little flashlight, and I'm sure that would have annoyed people, but I couldn't see quite what was going on, so I just kind of fudged it. But then I ended up with a loop outside of the yarn, which I quickly discovered 2 or 3 rounds later. And then I thought, great, what do I do? That loop, I can't cut it because it's not long enough to weave in. And I'm, you know, if I left it on the outside, it would quickly just fray, and it's part of the knitting, so it would completely, you know, when it frayed, it would unravel the entire sock. And so I put it down for about 20-30 minutes until I couldn't stand not knitting anymore. I put it down because I was like, oh, I should just wait till I get home and fix this. But then I couldn't not knit. I looked at how much time was left in the movie, and I said, I can't sit here for this much longer. I have to knit. And so I frogged in the movie theater back down a little bit and like looped it through the back and did this little weird trick thing that I know to fix that fixed it pretty well. And so that's how much I've gotten done this week. And like I said, this is a colorway that is in reference to the Little Prince, which a lot of you might know. And it was a show that I was too young, or maybe I wasn't even alive yet when it first came out, but then I saw it later. My mom showed it to me. But it was also something that I loved because when I took French in college, I had this book as one that I did. So, Le Petit Prince, and this is my French copy. And so I will show you a couple of the illustrations. There's him flying. And this isn't the book for this week. I was reading it to my son earlier in French, and he was like, can you stop reading to me in French? Voila! The Little Prince. And he lives on the planet Le Petit Prince sur l'astéroide B612. And that's him on his asteroid. And you've probably heard this story, and there are little movies and stuff that you can watch on YouTube if you want to look it up. And I don't think they're in French, but Le Petit Prince is something from my childhood that I loved. And so when I saw that they had that yarn, I got it like 8 or 9 months ago from Simply Sock. It's a website and a brick and mortar store, but they ship and they have a whole bunch of all sock yarns. I think that's all they do. But when I saw that they had the Little Prince, I had to get that. So that is all of my knitting. And then I am still spinning on the same thing that I was spinning last week because spinning wheels are not portable for me. I know drop spindles are, and I know that some people take their wheels, but when you're chasing a 4-year-old around an allergist's office or a dentist or swim lessons or all things, it's really, you need something you can quickly put up and down and not have to mess with that, and it's not that for me personally. It's finally cool enough to drink, and the matcha is very good. So no spinning really, tiny bit. And no enabling. And then group news. We have currently going on our Great Sock Needle experiment in the Ravelry group, BookishStitcher podcast. And that is just try a sock needle that's new to you, and then you can post that in there. It can be any DPN, circulars, magic loop, 9-inch. It can be a new method. If you always knit 9-inch, you could knit DPNs. If you always knit magic loop, you could try DPNs. Or it can be, if you always knit DPNs, just trying a new set of DPNs. It's anything. I am super laid back. And there will be prizes for that, and that's running all through the summer. And then we have our 1,000-member giveaway that is still going on. And it will be running till I'll draw for the winners on the 100th episode. And all the things are in there for the rules. And then we also, I forgot to mention this, I'm forgetting to mention this a couple times, but in the Bling Your String bag club that I got, there was this, see if I can get it to show. So it's not going to zoom in because mine doesn't focus like other people's, but it is Kamali's Naturals, and it is a balm, and you can use it for your hands or your lips. I have been keeping it in my project bag and just putting it on my hands whenever I need to, but the reason why I wanted to mention it is she offered a coupon code to all of you guys, or for me for the club, but then she said that you could use it, that all of you guys could use it too to try it out if you would like. And so this is the card, Kamali's Naturals. And the coupon code is Bling Your String sorry, my cat is going crazy. Bling 16. So BLING, capitalized, all of it, and then 16. And that expires on August 31st, 2016. So there's that. If you would like to go and try some wonderful lip gloss or hand lotion, and I will put that code in the Ravelry group as well. And then I wanted to say a special thank you this week because I got a wonderful card in the mail with some little goodies inside from my friend CJ, who is always Knit You One, who has a birthday coming up in July. CJ's birthday is coming up. And I've been putting together for months a little package for her, and it was ready a little while ago, and I thought, oh, I should send it. And I said, but her birthday is coming up, so I could just save it for a couple months and then send it off for her birthday to kind of have a special time. So I thought that would be fun. It's a nice thing if you're late about packages. There's always a holiday or a birthday coming up. But she sent me this card, and I love owls so much. And there are lots of them. They're so cute, holding hands, and there's all kinds of, and it's glittery, sparkly, which is wonderful. And she wrote a very sweet message, and there were so kinds of beautiful things in here, which I absolutely love. This is going on my refrigerator. Look at that. And it says, do one thing that makes you happy every day. Lovely. I just wanted to say thank you for all you do. Grateful. She makes such beautiful things. Thank you so much, CJ. It says, when you wish upon a star, and it's a little owl. And then, I'll love you to the moon and back. And it's this special card. It's so cute. And there's the information for the card maker. So thank you so much, CJ. It was so cute and so sweet. And the note made me tear up. It was just wonderful. So thank you so much for that sweet surprise in my mailbox this week. And now on to the book for this week. I'm so excited about this because I got to do research, which is one of my absolutely all-time favorite things to do. I've gotten to do some research for work before, and I just absolutely love it. So the book is called The Palace of Illusions, and I actually listened to it on audiobook, sorry. I got it on Audible a while ago, and I finally just listened to it, but it's an audio book. So you might be able to get it at your library. You can definitely get it on Audible, but it is Palace of Illusions by Chitra, Banerjee, Divakaruni. Palace of Illusions. And I will put this in the show notes, as I always do. The book of the week. But this book is so neat, and I got to go and learn some new things, which I always love. So the book takes place in India, and it is a retelling of apparently hugely famous in the country, still to this day everybody knows of it, myth. And I hadn't heard of it, even though I have some friends from college that are from India. And I just they'd never talked to me about this. We talked religious stuff before, but never about myths and things. And so it was very neat because I got to go and, learn a bit more about India because I wanted to do that. So I do not know any Hindi, which is what they speak in India, but I went and learned 2 words because I thought, it would be good. So this is my knowledge of Hindi so far is hello is namaste, and then to say please, which I always believe it's very important if you're going to go to a country to know how to say the word please and thank you and those kind of things. But please is kipara. I see I'm probably saying this wrong. Kipaya. If you speak Hindi, please tell me how to really pronounce it. Kripaya. I believe it's Kripaya. And so that was just a lot of fun to go and look and research on that. But the book is a retelling from the woman's point of view of the Mahabharata. And the Mahabharata is an epic from India. It's not known the exact date when the the story first came to be about, but it is thought to be the oldest epic. And it's so long, so I made little notes on a tiny little piece of scrap paper. But Maha means great in Sanskrit, and Mahabharata means mankind or India. So it's like the great tale of mankind of India. And in India, there was actually a show done of this giant epic, and it was on YouTube. There's ones on YouTube if you want to check it out. And it would apparently show up every Friday night, and everybody would stop what they were doing and watch the show. It was a country phenomenon, and they would talk about it the next day, but I just thought that was amazing. And so it was originally thought to be written by Vyasa, and it is 10 times the length of the Iliad and Odyssey combined. So that's the original story. This is a retelling about it from a woman's perspective. So the original myth legend is about these group of princes that come together, these two different groups from the same kind of, if you imagine it as like an umbrella family up here, and they split off in this group of son and this group, and then they fight each other like cousins fighting. And the princes are the Pandavas, which is one set of the princes, and then the others are the Kauravas. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing it close to what it is, since I listened to it in audiobook form, which was also great, because I think if I had just read this, I would have no idea how to pronounce these. But the war was the Kurukshetra war, and it was between these princes. And so the story is told from the point of view of Draupadi, and Draupadi is the woman in it. And so when she's born, it's very interesting, all the tells that they have, because her father prayed for a son who could avenge him against his mortal enemy. And so a son was born, but twins were born. So along with the son came this girl, and they were born by fire, as the tale has it. And so she and her brother came out, and it talks about how ever since she was young, she had been seen by someone who could tell the future. And he tells Draupadi, who's also known as Panchali, he tells her, you will marry 5 men, and you will cause one of the greatest wars and sadness to all these people. And so she, through circumstances, does end up marrying 5 different men, which is not common in the time. Normally the men had a whole bunch of wives, but the 5 different men are the Pandava princes, so they're all brothers. And there's Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjun, Nakula, and Sahadya. I think I'm pronouncing those right. And so she marries them, all the brothers. And the oldest brother, Yudhishthira, has a gambling problem, and he ends up gambling away their entire everything. He gambles away his brothers, himself, eventually his wife, Draupadi, and their gorgeous palace of illusions, which, you know, they have like Harry Potter world and all those things. They need a palace of illusions world, because apparently this palace was made specifically for them, and there would be, you could step somewhere and it would look like ground, but it was a pool, and it was basically a palace of illusions, to where things never were what they seemed to be. It would look like a door, but it was a wall, and it just, the way that Chitra Banerjee describes this is just beautiful. She has very floral language, and so I think if you don't like books that are very descriptive, don't read this, but if you do, then this would definitely be for you. And there's also very interesting elements in the book about Krishna, who kind of helps her throughout her journey, and kind of wondered if he is a god or not. And so I just really thought that was interesting. And when the brother gambles away all their things, they have to go into exile in this forest. And so they spend 12 years in exile in this forest, and they want to get their kingdom back. And so this great, huge war comes out. And so it is definitely an epic, and it's written very beautifully. And the book does take place from like talking about her birth when she's a young woman all the way to her death, because there are several moments when I thought, okay, the book is over. Oh no, wait, it's not over. It still has this much amount of time left, because it goes all the way to her death. So it's one of those books that you might think has a couple false endings. But since I'm telling you now, and if you listen to it or read it, you will know the book is not over till she is dead. It's her entire life. And I found it fascinating learning about this Indian myth that I had no idea about and is apparently still very culturally important. Like all the kids learn it like bedtime stories and everybody knows it. And the characters are still referred to, like if your child acts like a great warrior, they might call him Arjun, like he's like Arjun. And it was just wonderful to get to learn a bit more about the culture of India. I don't know if I would ever visit India, just because I don't like crowds, and I've seen travel documentaries of it, and it looks, of course, the main areas where you go, like the Taj Mahal and stuff, they're very crowded, and there's a lot of people that live in India, and Hindi is not the only language there. There's lots and lots of languages that are spoken, but I don't know if I would ever go, but learning about other cultures and things that are very important to them is fascinating, and myths are something that I find so just interesting and compelling and can give you such an insight into the culture and what's important to them. This definitely has that, and you can tell in the five brothers the different qualities that each of them exemplify are ones that are found to be very important in the culture in India, and it's almost a philosophy book branching towards a religion book for the people in India. So I just wanted to let you know about that book because it was so good, and I finished it this week because I've been driving and traveling a lot, and I thought that you might like to read that too. And I don't think a lot of people have read it, but it's called The Palace of Illusions. Let me pull it up on my phone again. The Palace of Illusions by Chitra, Banerjee, Divakaruni. So that's everything I have this week. I didn't have a lot of knitting, but I knew with the book and all the research that I awesomely got to do that it would probably be hopefully not too short, so it's perfect. 30 minutes, 32 minutes. So thank you everybody for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful week and that you get to do all the things you love. Okay, bye guys.